Hey guys, welcome to Drawing with Abby. In this video, we're going to be drawing Daredevil on my S23 Ultra in Clip Studio Paint. So let's get at it. So as always, we begin with the sketch. Now, for this particular drawing, I'm using an import of a Photoshop brush actually for sketching. I don't actually like any of the brush tools or the sketch tools in Clip Studio for any sketching. So I've actually taken the soft round brush from Photoshop and imported it directly into Clip Studio, which is awesome because Clip Studio can actually support the ABR files from Photoshop. So you can see here, I've quickly laid out my pose first with my general shapes and masses. And now I'm going in and refining some extra details, details about the costumes, details about shapes, and details about sort of the overall anatomy. One thing you'll see me do repeatedly with all of my illustrations is that I will start from basic anatomy before getting into any costume details, because I feel like costume details can be saved to the very, very end. And you can see even here in this, where we are at the stage of this drawing, I've skipped ahead. I've just laid down sort of the basic anatomy for the pencil layer, and I'm relying on my inking to go ahead and add in those details about the costumes. So I don't sweat it too much at the sketch stage, and that's just a way to speed up the process. And also, the sketch stage, in my mind, should really be focused on the most important aspects of your illustrations, to lay down the fundamentals and the groundwork of what your illustration is going to be. And the inks and the colors and every layer of polish that you add on after that is to really build out from those fundamentals so that you're starting out from a really strong place and all these other elements are just adding to that. So you can see here, I'm messing around with different inking techniques, and that's because I've downloaded a new brush pack. I plan to do a video about that brush pack in a later video. Brush packs are something that I think is really interesting. No one really talks about different brush packs and which are the good ones and which ones are the ones that maybe don't really improve your workflow. I've messed around with a few. So I really want to spend some time talking about some of the brush packs that I like and what you should be looking for when it comes to looking for a new brush pack. So be on the lookout for that video. So here you can see I've started with my inks over again. One of the things that I'm really becoming a little bit more free about is being brave enough to take big swings. So if I feel like things aren't working with the inks or working with an element, I'm willing to make the big risk of just starting all over again with it. And I'm trying not to be so precious with the line work. So you can see here, I'm using brushes and inking brushes that are a little bit more rough and have a little bit more of a texture to it. So that naturally invites for more wild brush work and some line quality. So not as polished, a lot more roughness to it. But I think in the end, it really works for certain types of illustrations. So here, obviously, we're drawing Daredevil. We're going with the costume that you see in the Netflix series. And that whole series has more of a rough and gritty tone and atmosphere for it. So I really wanted the line work to reflect that because you're trying to leverage every aspect of your illustration to help tell a story or to help build out an emotion or try to communicate to your audience. So making sure that you leverage not only sort of the big things, the macro things like your composition. So in this particular case, we have a very heroic composition for this character. We're looking up at the character, so it's aspirational. It's a very dynamic angle, so the character looks even more heroic, like as if they're in mid-action. So those are some of the macro things you can use to help tell your story. But then you can also use micro things like the line work, and the types of brushes that you're using, and the subtle way that you use shading to sort of help inform how the audience should feel about your artwork. So in this particular case, we're using our line work. We're using the roughness of our line work to indicate that this is a world that's a little bit more gritty, less clean, less polished, less safe. And we utilize not only the shading to create some sort of tension or drama, but we're also using the line works and the roughness of the line works to let the user know that this isn't a clean powdered town. This isn't a safe moment in time, that we're truly in either a scary place or a place where there's a lot of tension. And you can use not only your composition and your lighting and your shading, but you can also things as minute as where you place your ticks and your cross hatching, and how smooth or how rough your lines are can help reinforce those ideas. So as if you've watched my previous drawing video, you'll know that one thing that I noted was that I really want to get away from drawing characters just standing in floaty backgrounds. So in this illustration, I really wanted to commit to drawing the character in context, in an environment that makes sense to the character and to the pose. So we can see that, Matt Murdock over here is standing over a building, over a steel grate, and we want to add hints of texture to sort of the foreground elements that we have here. So this building that we have in front of, or this building that Daredevil is standing on top of, we want to sort of use to carry forward the lighting for first of all, so we know that the character isn't just like clip art just thrown onto the environment, that the environment should react to the character as well as the character being influenced by the environment. So we can see that the lighting here is consistent from the character to some of these foreground elements. So we have that shadow swooping across at the bottom of it, and now we're applying some texture to those elements. So we're adding some cracks, we're adding some ticks to indicate what kind of material that the top of that building might be made out of. We can see it's like made of some sort of crumbly concrete. It's not very well maintained. And again, it's like these micro things that you can add to your illustrations to help inform your audience or tell a little bit of a story, to let you know that, Daredevil is heroically fighting to save a city that's kind of falling apart. And you tell the heroic part by the composition, but you tell those sort of additional aspects through the little details that you add, like the textures here. And now we're going to be applying some ink wash. So ink wash is something that I've used on traditional media. I haven't really used it in digital art, just because I really didn't think there were brushes or techniques out there that could sort of replicate the look and feel of ink wash. But lately, some of the comic book art that you've seen coming out of like guys like Jorge Jimenez or Sean Murphy, where they include a little bit of digital in their techniques. Well, maybe not so much with Sean Murphy. You can see that it is possible. So I've started to sort of experiment and branch out and try to include that in my illustrations. So one major critique at the end of this illustration that I have, and it's always good to be self-critical and just think about what you can be doing better. So one thing I definitely noticed at the end of this illustration is that the buildings that I included in the background kind of contradict and contrast what I'm trying to communicate with the rest of the environment. They look a little too clean, a little too polished. They look like buildings in a financial district and not in the rough side of the town. So it's something that I definitely made a mistake here and something to be more mindful of in the future. So here's what the final illustration looks like. As I said before, not too happy with those background buildings, they looked a little too clean for what I was trying to go for here. But overall, I think the composition is strong. I like the brush work from this brush pack I downloaded, and the ink wash is interesting. I'm used to working with ink wash on paper, so I'm still not quite comfortable doing it digitally. So there's definitely lots of room to grow there. And that was my drawing of Daredevil. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button. If you want to see more, feel free to hit that sub button. Until next time, keep drawing.